In this video, I was going to show you guys how to make some micro fine arrowheads. How small? That small. Look at how tiny that little thing is. Just a super fine little arrow point. Well, if you really want to take your flintnapping to the next level in terms of making exquisite arrow points, we're going to get into it today. I'm going to show you how to do it. Here are some of the micro points I've made from different flints and obsidian. Far from being chunky and crude, these tiny arrowheads feature exquisite workmanship and attention to detail. They are thin and delicate, with needle-sharp tips, very fine flaking, microfine serrations, deep and very narrow notches, and other delicate features that are very difficult to create without advanced flintnapping skill. Some of these points are only 1/4 of an inch wide at the base. Making such tiny points with such fine detail requires excellent support and very sharp pressure flaking tools. Points of similar size weren't uncommon in prehistoric times. Mistakenly called bird points, they were actually used for hunting big game. These points can be made from small waste flakes like these. Now, to make those little points, you need some really fine tools. And I've used two different types. I've used the tip of an X-Acto knife, believe it or not, to get in there and do those really fine serrations and those really narrow notches. And also I use a welding rod. And I have these welding rods available for sale on my website. So if you go to primitivepathways.com, I do sell these. But these are really good for doing that really fine, exquisite work like we're about to do. I'm going to start off by just using this copper flaker to rough shape this. When you pinch it like that, you get really good support where you're taking those flakes off. Sounds like somebody racing down the damn road. What the hell? Great thing about these little points is you can really practice your fine flint napping, and this will give you a lot of refinement when you go to make arrow points that aren't quite so fine. I just love making these little exquisite points. I always have. And there's not many people who can do fine work to this degree. Switch to the finer tool. These little points, you make them right, they are definitely worthy of hunting with. They are small, but man, they are just, you can get these edges really darn sharp. You keep that point really sharp on your flaker. I do like to place the point, little leather pad on my flat railing here. Gives me good support overall, but when I'm doing like really fine work like this on that tip, I really do like to pinch it. It gives me more localized support and helps keep me from snapping that tip off. It's really cool to make these little points and then show them off to people. Wow, man, how'd you make that tiny little thing? I think it's so small. And when you make them really well with really nice symmetry and very fine details like needle sharp tips and really exaggerated barbs or whatever design you're doing, the fineness of the work is just, I think, what really impresses people. Great thing too is that you really don't use much stone. You get these tiny little flakes that most people would throw away. It's fun to make these little points though. Do some little side notches here. Oh, it's a tiny, tiny work. Just really, you get such fine tolerances in there. Not much room for error. Everything you're doing is so small. Sometimes with these notches, what I can do is actually get in there like that, pinch it, and then use my tool, get my tool in there. There we go. You can just take off little micro flakes in there. Make that little tiny point. I'll clean it up a little bit, just do some real fine nibbling on that edge, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. After completing that first point, I decided to make another micro point out of some coarse obsidian. After the first notch is complete, I start on the second one, doing my best to keep it symmetrical with the first notch. Well, finally got them done. I got 2 of them finished. But man, look at how tiny that little thing is. I mean, it's small. I don't know if you really see it on the video. I might have to put it down on the railing so you can see it. That's that one little one of obsidian, and this one made out of Texas flint. Just very, very finely made. You know, these little things, they're kind of a novelty little points, but I've seen some examples like this, prehistoric examples that have come off archaeological sites both on the East Coast and the West Coast. So they were actually making points. Some points were made this small, and they've actually tested positive for blood from big game. So I plan on using some of these this fall. I'm going to plan to hunt with them. Maybe I can get a shot at a deer, but if not, at least I'll try and get a squirrel or something with them. So stay tuned, you guys. I'm going to be tipping some of my arrows with points like this, and we're going to try them out on game this fall. These are 2 replica Northern Paiute arrows that I've made. As you can see, these things are tipped with 2 very small little obsidian points. I had to change the background so you guys could see them, but these are 2 really small little obsidian points, and these are what I plan on hunting with this fall. And I'm going to try and see if I can possibly get a deer with one. I don't know. I haven't shot at a deer in a number of years, but I'll definitely get some shots at some squirrels this fall. So I'm going to at least try these out on some squirrels, and we're going to see how they work. Here are some of the very fine micro arrowheads I've made. As you can see in the picture, they're really, really small. I was inspired to make these tiny points by a guy who does unique squirrel taxidermy. His website, squirrelwarriors.com, features stuffed squirrels in all kinds of unique poses, throwing spears, rappelling down cliffs, etc. But one of the most popular is his archer squirrels, which he dresses in real brain tan buckskin, and he arms them with miniature sinew-backed bows. I've collaborated with him to make the tiny arrow points that fit on the tips of the Squirrel Warrior arrows. If you're interested in owning some of these tiny arrow points, they're available on my website, primitivepathways.com. And if you'd like to own a Squirrel Warrior, check out his website, squirrelwarriors.com.